Good afternoon, everybody, and it's great to be here this afternoon to have a virtual meeting with this particular group of people who really have a very good, or in a good position to pass on some messages on my behalf, if you like, about Europass. Just a little bit about myself. I'm in QQI, and you probably obviously know certainly about QQI and who we are and what we do in relation to quality assurance and qualifications. And I suppose I am in the qualifications side of the house at QQI, and I'm responsible for what they call the information services around and about qualifications. So I look after Europass. We're the national contact point for Europass. I'll also look after something called NARIC, which is the National Academic Recognition Information Centre, and that's where we provide information about foreign qualifications, but also information about qualifications in general. And I also look after Qualifax, which I think, again, many of you will be familiar with as a resource and database about course information for all types of learners that are out there looking for education and training. And I mean, we maintain those services on behalf of QQI, and each of them, I suppose, are individual type areas. And I'm very happy to talk to you today then about the Europass end of things. So I suppose one of the questions I was going to ask you at some stage anyway is really, you may have heard of Europass, you may not have heard of Europass. And to some extent, if you've heard about Europass in the past, I'd be saying to you, look, things have changed. And Europass has been around since around 2004. But it got very tired, it got very weary, and it didn't do what it was supposed to do originally. So things have taken quite a turn in Europe, and Europass has been revitalized for many reasons. And one of the reasons obviously is because the existing Europass was a bit weary. The second one is because of the European skills agenda and the focus, you might say, on upskilling Europeans and ensuring that we're able to compete at global levels. And also now, due to the pandemic, I suppose, they also see Europass as being a method and a way of helping people get back on track, where people have had, their jobs are gone, their jobs are changed, and now they're coming back into the workforce. And it doesn't matter whether you're in Ireland or whether you're in Hungary or where you are, Europass is something that you can use, and it's not solely for the purposes of mobility. So in the past, it was associated with mobility very much, but now it's much more associated with what we would call career planning, information provision, and giving you a facility to sort of manage and develop your own career and your job applications, etc. So I'm going to try and give you a little bit of an overview of it, and if we have time, I was going to show you my Europass, if you want to have a look at my Europass, and maybe then after this you might then create your own, and also then maybe see how AENTAS and all of the people that you deal with might engage with it. So the kind of catchphrase around Europass that's been used by the Commission is take the next step. So take the next step to employment, take the next step into education, take the next step into development in one way or another. So I hope that's okay by way of an introduction, and I'm just going to move on and give you a little bit more of the detail about it. And the first thing, and I'm not sure if I can actually do this, is that the European Commission has produced a whole series of videos. And maybe what we'll do is we'll try and play one of those videos at the end of the session rather than doing it now, because I'm afraid it might all fall down on me. But there are a series of videos which have been produced across Europe for this. And the first one there is a nice one. It's Irish. It's about an individual and how he uses his Europass in the context of his career. And then there's a tutorial they've developed, and then this is a more generic one, the Europass, you don't have one, why don't you, kind of thing. So, I mean, there's a lot of material, and the European Commission has invested heavily in Europass. So we're trying to take it then to the next step. In Ireland, we're trying to move it out there and get people's awareness about Europass up. So there are lots of things there you can look at to help you and possibly your learners. So it was launched in 2020, back in July. I suppose you couldn't have a worse time for something to be launched in the middle of a pandemic, but there was a slight delay on it. But these things are many years in gestation, and this one certainly took, I suppose, the best part of about 3 years to come about. So when the platform, which is the website essentially, was ready, they went ahead and they launched it with what we call the personal profile, or the e-portfolio, which was the first part of it. And then the second part of it really is a whole, I suppose, surround of information about learning and working in Europe. It taps into other platforms. It taps into Eurace, for instance. It taps into other learning portals with information locally. And it taps into country pages and other, obviously, languages as well, because something I didn't say about Europass is that it's available in all European languages. So it's not just English, it's there in Irish and French and German, in every European language. So that's, you can imagine how large a scale and a job that is in itself. So there's information, and we have a country page for Ireland, and we have provided, you might say, the key governmental resources that are available for information and learning and working in Ireland for our respective page. And then behind that then will be more links to other places as well. And then there'll be an associated page for France and for Germany and other countries as well. And the other feature then that's coming soon, if you like, to Europass is digital tools and the whole, what we call, digital credentials space. And you can see that if I show you my own Europass e-portfolio, because there is this development now of enabling people to have everything on your phone, if you like, so that you can store your own data, you can store your credentials by way of your certificates, your licenses, your references, that they can all be stored in electronically, and they can be stored securely as well, because that's obviously some big particular part of it, that the whole thing has to be secure from a GDPR point of view, but also from a point of view of your personal security, that this is your material and it needs to be kept in a safe place. So there is a talk about a digital wallet, so that you would have a wallet for all of your important papers, if you like, that would be digital. And that could include your exam results, it could include references from employers, it could include, materials you've generated in your workplace, photographs, licenses, passports, whatever you want to put in there. So that's, it is very much an interesting concept. And as I said, in the previous Europass, you might say 2020, the old Europass very much focused on what we call a Europass CV. And the whole idea was that you created a CV for yourself. But that is really now, it's part of the Europass, but it's not the only thing. What is being sold now, as you might say, the key message is that you have on Europass, you create your own Europass profile. And you can see there, which I can hope you can see the screen at a reasonable size, that's an example of someone's profile. And that profile covers everything that you want it to cover and includes your CV. So you can generate your own CV there. You can import a CV, you can import application forms, you can import other documents that you want to put in. But the whole idea is that it is a shift now to having a profile. And that profile will be your profile that you can add to over the years. So it's not static, it's your profile, it belongs to you, and you can add to it, subtract from it, and maintain it as you develop your own personal career. I mean, the reaction to date is good within Europe so far, given that we're in the middle of a pandemic, given that we haven't been able to promote it in many ways that we would like to. Already there was something like 1.5 million users in Europe work on Europass. And obviously I've created my own Europass, so I'm one of those. And there have been 18 million visits to the website. So it is getting good reactions so far. And time will tell, obviously, as to how well it improves, and we hope it will. But we need to do our part in Ireland now to try and promote it locally. So again, some of the key messages around it. Again, data protection, I've mentioned that already. It's extremely important, and you are the owner of the Europass. It's your own, and it's where you can work on it and plan and prepare and organize your own applications using Europass. So, you know, it is a gateway, if you like, as well to Europe, in that Europass will be widespread. So already, I think Malta is one of the places where there is a huge amount of usage of Europass. Portugal is another area where there's a very large engagement with Europass. So you can see how, you know, this is going to impact on people who are mobile within Europe for working and for studying purposes. I mean, again, if you think of what is it for, you know, the idea about Europass all along was that we would understand one another in Europe. Obviously coming from Ireland with a English written CV and certificates and references in English or whatever else, we all have different styles. And the idea behind Europass was that we would have something that was easily recognizable across Europe. And that would include common structures, and that this is what this will have. It has a common structure. And then the second key goal, I suppose, is that it will be recognized by end users and also by the likes of employers, you know, trade unions, colleges, etc. So that when they see a Europass coming to them or being sent to them, they will know what it is. And the other big push, I suppose, around it is around digital credentials. And I think if a day doesn't go by for any of us without hearing the word digital and all its importance. And I think, I mean, speaking for myself, we're all trying to catch up on what digital means and how we can, how it works. And I'm not a techie, but I'm trying to find out how all of these things can be used in the context of Europass. And to some extent, we have to wait on the powers that be to show us how it works and to develop a system around this. And that's what's actually happening at the moment. There's a series of pilot projects going on in Europe with 18 countries around digital credentials. And they're trying to find the best way of digitizing people's credentials so that they will be secure and able to be used by, I suppose, all of us in the Europass area. Again, you know, some of the other elements to it is that they talk about a word called interoperability. And when I heard that first, I thought it was just awful. But interoperability essentially means that it can interplay or interact with other European tools. Eurace, for instance, the jobs hub, the European jobs hub, our Department of Social Protection and Family Affairs manage Eurace. They're now being tied in much more closely into Eurace, or into Europass, where Europass applications, if you like, can be exchanged into the Eurace portal so that you can apply for jobs. And there will be this facility where you are able to tag jobs and send your CV and exchange information, you might say, from Europass into Eurace. And the idea also would be then that employers, other types of employers also could come to Europass and look for people with certain sets of skills and get that interoperability going across Europass. So there are other benefits to Europass, that there will be, you know, more efficient, I suppose, exchange of information, and then, you know, it'll benefit the job holders or the seekers at the end of the day. Now, from our point of view, I have my own Europass, and we're trying to grow this now. And that's why I suppose when I was offered the opportunity by Niamh to do a presentation with you, I said I would be delighted. And I'm only learning myself. So I don't know everything about Europass, but I am trying to grow my knowledge about it for myself, but also then get people like yourselves to engage with it, have a look at it, and most importantly, give us feedback about it, because we are taking feedback and we're taking it directly back to the team of people who are building Europass in Brussels. And they are taking on board some of the feedback they get, and they're trying to make it user-friendly. It does require IT literacy, and that is something that, you know, has to be overcome. It has to be worked with, and there has to be material and training material developed to help people move to that level of capacity in relation to computer literacy. So that's something that I thought yourselves might comment on certainly this afternoon. I just got to the stage now of questions, but what I wanted to do was to stop sharing this particular presentation, and I was going to go into the Europass platform and show you a little bit about it. If you just bear with me, okay? Basically, the steps to get onto the platform is europass.eu. And when you go onto europass.eu, then you must select the language of your choice. So I have selected, obviously, the language of English. If I wished, I could select the language of Irish or any other language that's available in Europe. And if you look then at the top right-hand corner, you see me, and that's my profile. So we can go into that in a second, but if you see here on the very general material, you can create a CV, you can create a cover letter, and you see the theme going through it all the time. We talk about take the next step. And there it is described as your free personal tool for learning and working in Europe. And you can create your own free, your free Europass. And then you can go down and there's finding options, and they break it up into very simple structures, if you like. You can learn in Europe, you can work in Europe. And then you can go down and look at other options here, read more on both sides. And so there's obviously a wealth of material behind these particular information items, if you like. And again, so what I'm looking for is people to go onto this site and to start looking themselves and asking questions about it. But what I wanted to do was to show you a little bit just about my profile. So now, after all this, you know all about me. I'm just going into my Europass here, which I've just filled out a little bit. And you saw the one in one of the slides I showed you. This is just a little bit about, it's a profile. This is fixed. This is, you might say it's a little bit like LinkedIn. And I mean, I've put in a few things. I put in my photograph. I put in a little bit about myself. I'm just trying to be creative here. And if I want to look at jobs, I can look at jobs. And these are jobs now that I've looked at. I haven't put actually the jobs in. That actually isn't actually working yet. But the bit here I have put in is about courses. So I can drill into other types of courses and I can save them as my favorites. I'm looking at a sports and exercise leader, and that was available. I think that might be in Malta. And I was also looking at something in the Netherlands. I'm looking at different jobs. I haven't looked at any in Ireland. But there are different ones you can look at. And then I've looked at other things. I've added in what are my skills. I've added my interest in here. You can create a CV, you can create a cover letter, and also you have your library. So there are different, I mean, again, I'm not, hugely familiar with running around this particular profile for myself yet, because I'm only developing my own area. I put just to show you in terms of the library part of it there now. So you have a resource here where you can put in material. So it's divided up into blocks, if you like. And here you have I've just put in, for the sake of it, a stopper. And it's not a CV as such. It was just a CV, my name, my address, my telephone number. But if you want to put there, you can add a CV in there that you have already made up. And you have to obviously put it in certain formats, in PDFs or, particular formats it'll accept. Or you can create a new CV and put it in there. The second part then, there's an option here. You don't have to use any of this. You can, it's there if you wish to use it. You can put a cover letter in. So if you have more than one cover letter, you have previous versions of letters you've applied for jobs, it could be an email you've saved. Basically, you have material maybe on your laptop or whatever else, you can put them in here into your Europass, and you'll be able to find them when you need them. Because I know when I went looking for my CV, I have to look back a number of years and I have to pull out different things. Then we're talking about certificates. So again, I'm not going to be personal here about things. I just put in a few samples of material from QQI that I just generated myself. So again, this is material. If you have your leaving cert, if you have a junior certificate, if you have a degree or a QQI award, and you have a photograph of it, you can add it in there and put it in there. So it's handy and available to you when you want to put together an application. And you can upload other stuff as well. So, you know, people have here are often putting in things like a driving license. I have seen pictures of people putting in their passport. It could be that someone might put in a visa, you know, if they have a stamp 4 or they need to have a particular visa for working or a particular permit of some kind, they can put it in there. And here we are, there's a photograph, you know. So there's lots of flexibility here as to what you might like to put in, and then you can delete it and add it and whatever else, and you can add new sections then all of the time. So that's just a very, very beginning part of it. And then you have a section on skills. And again, you know, it's a matter of spending a little bit of time playing around with this to some extent. These are suggestions here all of the time. And you know, I can add to this the whole time. So here I am adding in a skill, and it prompts you and you're able to populate material about yourself. So it's very, I mean, there is a lot of positives about this. And so you have management skills, attitudes, there's a different, it categorizes things for you. It works with ESCO and European standards for a lot of these things. So that's how they come along here. And let me just see what else, my interests here as well. So again, what am I interested in? So I can add, where am I going on this? This is my career planning part here, if you like. So again, I've just put in a few basic things here. I've decided that I want to learn a trade, I take a course, get better at my job, change career, improve my language skills, volunteer. That's where I'm at. Now you can put in other options there. This is not limited to these particular headings here. I was obviously thinking about where might I like to go. We'd all like to go to places at the moment, perhaps, but I would be dreaming about maybe going to Italy and France. It would be in terms of if you wanted to go there to work or to learn or to be educated. You could have Ireland in there, obviously, as well. So again, what are your interests? What are the topics that you're passionate about? And as you go through this, you might say, you can see how you're creating a profile for yourself. And that profile then can obviously be added to, subtracted from over time. So that's essentially what I would be looking at this way. And then there's different, you can go into it in different ways. This is how I would edit material about it. Excuse me. And I have put material in here about my job history, various things that I've done before. So the detail is there behind it. And again, as I say, I'm only beginning to explore this Europass and how it works. But there it is for me. For somebody who's younger or someone who's returning to work, you know, it'll be, I suppose time will tell as to how it's going to work for them.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I mean, I just see a lot of similarities. I'm doing a bit of work at the moment myself with CEDAFOP and this you know, this digital transition we're in. It's very interesting, the whole, you know, and digital credentials. But yeah, I'm just looking at the interface there of the Europass. I've seen it before in the early phases, but there's a lot of similarities with LinkedIn. And there, I mean, if you're on LinkedIn, you can generate your own CV. There's a lot of overlap. What possibly I'm seeing, you know, a main advantage would be the fact that, you know, there may be links to a lot of other Scandinavian countries, for example, or like a European translations link there where, you know, it would be cross many different territories. So I think LinkedIn focuses primarily on maybe the big 4 or 5 in Europe in terms of countries, in terms of jobs and that. But yeah, just trying to see where the added value here is when you're trying to pitch this strategically, you know, getting take up, you know, over existing and established, well-established services such as LinkedIn, you know.
Yeah, well, I think LinkedIn was seen more as a kind of a professional type platform, if you like, while Europass is considered a bit more free for everybody. And obviously it's private individuals as well. It's private, it's not so much public. You don't make it so, you don't make yourself public on it. In LinkedIn, it's a public facility, if you know what I mean. You're putting yourself up there as to share who you are, while Europass is about you, and it's actually, you're not sharing that information publicly with anybody. So that's the key difference that I would see with it, is that the Europass is mine. You know, I'm not actually sharing it with you. I may send you material from my Europass if you wish to use, if you're recruiting, for instance, but that's my choice. I'm not putting myself out there completely like you do in LinkedIn, if that makes sense.
No, we just had a nice group discussion, participants from fairly different backgrounds. We'd be aware of Europass, but for myself, it would be more client specific. It would be relevant to particular people I would work with, but maybe not so much with others. I have one particular case at the moment. I have a Spanish girl who's moving back to Spain in the summertime when she completes qualifications with us. So I'll be engaged with her next week to see if this might be a useful way of transferring her qualifications and work experience into a tool that she can utilize when she goes back to Spain. And then on the wider discussion, people are doing their best, but I think fatigue is kicking in with a lot of the cohort in terms of online. We've been doing it for a year now. It's a bit much. I think that's basically the main element of feedback I'd have.
It was very useful discussion. I think most people had either heard or certainly used it. Questions around, could content be translated? Are there translation tools? And the other question was accessibility and its use for those maybe with, say, dyslexia or other issues around literacy. From the library perspective, we'd definitely be recommending it as a resource on our website, because when we were in the library, members of the public would come in, job seekers, and it was, even at that stage, a tool we'd recommend, free to use, quality. In other cases, people would do out CVs and then they'd have to pay in order to release the print. So we feel it's a bona fide resource. So that's it.
Yeah, so for the people who do not know me, I work with people with intellectual disabilities. So Europass for me wouldn't really be suitable for my learners at the moment. They, they wouldn't be literate enough. They would need help to do it. So, so in that regard, it doesn't really relate to us. But I do think for staff training. But I also asked Angela, is that something that is included in this whole Europass, because it seems to be quite business orientated to me? Is there things in there like training for intellectual disabilities, autism, dyslexia? I see here dyslexia in bottom corner of my screen. So that's kind of where
I just put it in the chat there. One of the things that in a guidance context, and this doesn't mean that a guidance counsellor has to be doing all of this, but it is about pulling things together. So using Europass as a tool, but actually addressing exactly those challenges and saying that, that it kind of could be a gradual piece that people engage with on a step-by-step basis, that it can be part of career management skills, which really needs to be embedded into all learning. Part-time, full-time, people who are learning very fundamental kind of skills, but right through, especially, for example, people who have issues with say, specific learning difficulties, intellectual, everyone can do something and everyone can participate and present themselves, but it then can be used as a tool to build up momentum. And that's where I would think I would love to see Europass engaged as part of a career management piece that's step by step. But I also included, I think, and now please, I included a video there from Euro Guidance, which is under the roof of NCGE, which is a step-by-step guide to using Europass. So I would just say there's a number of things. It does need to be adapted. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You need to look and say, can we use this little bit of it and move from there and step on? And guidance might be part of that.
You can hear me? Yeah, I said the sun always shines in Donegal. We were lucky. We had Michael, who is a Polish student, or maybe he's left, or he's still at university, who actually has created his own Europass. So we were very fortunate, and we had Anne from QQI who works in Europass. So we had that. So Michael sought it as university, and again, he doesn't know how widespread it is, but we talked of ways of promoting it. And one of the suggestions was maybe employers, if there was a button to upload Europass, so then it would create kind of, oh, what is this Europass? Also, but maybe transition years at school, kind of, and that. Now, it was also talked, because I work with the Donegal ETB, the Learning for Living, which is a level 3, about literacy issues, again, that it was talked about. But because our communications module has to do a CV, and so maybe we could actually look as a group to incorporate that, because it is CVs, cover letters, letters of application. We do all that, so maybe we need to go back and think, let's incorporate Europass into our program. So I thought, yeah, so we didn't get to ask how everyone was, so I hope everyone is okay. But it was very, very interesting, because I'm already thinking of ways that I can use it with my students to promote it. And yeah.
But look, all I would suggest is that maybe you might have a look at Europass yourselves. Come back to us with more feedback. You know, you'll have my contact details. Come back to us with some more feedback. We'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to be able to talk further to some of your stakeholders, if you like, about Europass. And I suppose at some point when we are able to meet up with people as well, that we will do more work with you to get, I suppose, more basic interaction going about Europass, whether it's in education and training settings or in the libraries or through youth work. I mean, transition year has been mentioned here. I mean, transition year is a great option area as well for people to begin working with their Europass. And if people are involved in Erasmus Plus exchange type of activity, that's another area where it really works well for people to develop and to record their learning, because again, it can be used that way. But look, it's at the moment, it's what we call, it has great potential, I think. But for us to get it up and running then is the next sort of challenge that we have. And really then, of course, the problem I have is that Europass is myself and Anne Walsh, who's also with us this afternoon. We don't have huge resources here. We're fairly small. So we rely on kind of dissemination events to try and get the message out, and public events normally that we would go to as well. But, you know, maybe we could find some people who champion our cause amongst you. That might, you can do an awful lot for us to help us. So maybe, look, come back to me and let's talk again soon.